A Mortal's Journey to Immortality episode 327. In the previous episode, Han Li faced the terrifying power of the two-headed Elder Devil, whose sudden and unpredictable movements made his attacks nearly impossible to track. His sovereign devil corpse, Han Li's carefully crafted puppet, was swiftly torn apart despite his efforts to control it, as the Elder Devil unleashed bone spikes and black flames. Even Han Li's tiger demon puppets and ice-shooting tortoise constructs struggled to defend him. Realizing the severity of the threat, Han Li prepared his ultimate defenses, summoning layers of golden sword afterimages and weaving the purple apex flames around him. At the end of the previous episode, Han Li revealed the Blood Devil Sword, a sacred tool infused with both blood essence and black energy. The Elder Devil, recognizing its origin, offered Han Li a chance to surrender the sword in exchange for his life, setting the stage for a deadly confrontation. What will happen next? Stay tuned. And the story continues. When the Elder Devil heard this, he squinted his eyes in surprise as Han Li hadn't displayed the slightest fury. He swept his gaze several times past the sword blur in front of Han Li, the purple flame bird, and the Blood Devil Sword before he gloomily stared at Han Li once more. Han Li, unfazed, silently returned the stare, and the thunderstorm wings slowly unfolded from his back as the circulation of magic power surged through his body. His presence became more imposing, radiating a potent energy that could make even seasoned cultivators hesitate. Suddenly, a tremendous explosion echoed in the distance, drawing the attention of both Han Li and the Elder Devil. Their eyes fixed on a brilliant, flashing light. Several balls of multicolored energy were relentlessly pounding against a black light barrier. In an instant, the barrier dissolved, revealing three devilish treasures: a ring, a small sword, and a spell flag. Though the treasures were intact, their demonic light appeared thin and weakened, as if they had suffered considerable damage. The Elder Devil, fully focused on Han Li, had not noticed Senior Martial Brother Cheng and his companions, who had seized the opportunity. Although all three were early nascent soul cultivators, their battle experience was considerable. They had skillfully employed their own secret techniques to break through the restrictions on their treasures. Their hearts trembled as they saw the Elder Devil's strange movements, but they chose not to directly confront him. Instead, they launched their treasures from a distance, aiming to distract the devil while Han Li, the main force, handled the confrontation. Han Li, observing this, felt a spark of delight. The assistance, even indirect, would grant him precious time to complete the placement of the Aureate sword formation. With that thought, he took a final glance at the Elder Devil, who had also noticed the streaking treasures. The ghostly head of the devil's visage flickered with a sinister smile before he vanished in a flurry of afterimages. Han Li's heart leapt, and he quickly activated his bright sight spirit eyes. Scanning the surroundings, what he saw made his expression tighten. "Not good, be careful," he shouted, commanding his enormous tortoise puppets to shoot beams of blue light towards Senior Martial Brother Cheng's group. The three cultivators, realizing the Elder Devil had abandoned his focus on Han Li to target them, could only curse bitterly as fear gripped their hearts. The Elder Devil, aware that Han Li's Blood Devil Sword and other abilities were not to be underestimated, decided that eliminating the minor threats first would make the main battle easier. Over 10 thick beams of energy erupted around the three cultivators, filling the air with a cold and piercing aura. A black silhouette flickered 30 meters from them, and the Elder Devil suddenly appeared, moving with astonishing speed. The cultivators tried to prepare, but their composure faltered at the sight of his unnatural velocity. Fortunately, all three acted with remarkable skill. Senior Martial Brother Cheng and the other old man raised their arms, summoning a fire-red fox and a large talisman. Taoist Heaven Crystal clasped his hands in an incantation, unleashing his two malevolent puppets from the group's protective barrier. The talisman erupted in clouds of flames, and the fox leapt into the fire, fusing with it and disappearing, demonstrating its rare and agile fire-based abilities. Seeing the two puppets approaching, the Elder Devil expressionlessly clapped his four hands together in pairs. Blinding black radiance formed in his palms, taking the shape of four short, warped blades that emitted piercing shrieks. warping the nearby space. The formation of these black blades seemed to consume a vast portion of the devil's blood essence, causing his human head to appear deathly pale, while the ghost head hardened with a savage expression. Without hesitation, the black blades shot forward toward the approaching blue puppet. The puppet responded fearlessly, releasing a wave of gray energy to sweep forward. The other puppet, with a flash of azure light, sent over 10 threads of ice into the mist, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The scarlet puppet spat out more energy, launching red drills toward the elder devil. Above him, the fire cloud surged, adding a third dimension to the assault. The elder devil waved his 4 arms, sending twirling crescents from his blades. The crescents overlapped into 2 crosses, each barreling toward a puppet. As the black blades engaged, a giant claw formed from the fire cloud, attempting to strike the ghost head. Simultaneously, the azure ice threads and scarlet drills moved past the mist, homing in on the elder devil. The 4 blades of black light coalesced into a massive orb of darkness. When the puppet attacks struck it, they were instantly absorbed and shattered, erupting in a burst of red and blue light. The claw of flames attempted to retreat but was obliterated by a whip of black light. A mournful cry echoed from the fire cloud as the ghost head displayed a feral expression, blood dripping from his tongue. The elder devil then vanished and reappeared within the heart of the flame cloud, which roiled violently. Limbs of the fire-red fox scattered in the aftermath, leaving the 3 cultivators in shock and grief. The elder devil's expression remained odd, shifting as he vanished again. Black radiance flickered from the gray mist of energy, followed by 2 explosive bursts. Taoist heaven crystal's face turned pale, and with a sweep of his sleeve, he blew away the lingering energy, discovering that both of his puppets had been completely destroyed. The elder devil had vanished again, leaving the cultivators with no time to grieve. Panic and fear rippled through them, and they hurriedly drew additional treasures from their storage pouches to prepare for the next strike. At that moment, spatial distortions manifested, and a massive black mountain, the thousand-fold mountain, appeared under Han Li's command. It smashed down toward the cultivators to offer temporary protection, but a flicker of black light appeared beneath it, revealing the elder devil wearing an icy expression. He raised his 4 arms skyward, condensing the 4 blades into a single, 3-meter-tall black blade. Holding it with both hands, he swung downward at the mountain with incredible force. A thin black crescent of energy shot from the blade, causing the base of the mountain to erupt in blinding light. A sleek crack appeared at its center, splitting the entire mountain into 2 halves that collapsed onto the ground. The elder devil, unrelenting, turned his gaze toward the cultivator's multi-layered barrier. Raising the enormous black blade once more, he sent another thin black crescent toward it. The 3 cultivators, seeing the immense threat, exchanged terrified glances. Recognizing that the barrier would not withstand the attack, they abandoned it and fled in different directions. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng rushed toward Han Li, while Taoist Heaven Crystal and the other old man sped toward Wei Wuya's location. Han Li's heart raced as he realized the peril the 3 faced. But he was fully focused on completing the Aureate sword formation. With no opportunity to directly intervene, he quickly released a syringe of spell seals around him and commanded his 12 tortoise puppets to launch icicles from their backs. The attacks would not harm the elder devil, but they were sufficient to obstruct his path, buying the 3 cultivators precious moments to escape. The black crescent of light sliced through the multi-layered barrier as if it were cutting through grass. And in an instant, the entire barrier shattered into specks of dust. When the elder devil saw the 3 cultivators fleeing from the barrier, his expression twisted into one of derisive mockery, as if their attempts to escape amused him. Han Li's tortoise puppets, meanwhile, pelted the surrounding area with over 1,000 icicles, their blue radiance filling the air with a crisp, cutting sound. But the elder devil was already moving with terrifying speed. With a blur of his massive hands, the elder devil swung the huge black blade again, forming a blinding ball of energy. He split it apart to create 2 3-meter-long black lances, which he hurled into the air with precision. One lance flew straight toward the unfamiliar old man, while the other aimed at Senior Marshal Brother Cheng. Han Li's tortoise puppets continued their relentless assault. But the lances vanished with a shriek before the icicles could reach them. In the blink of an eye, the Elder Devil reappeared 70 meters away, entirely evading the incoming attacks. The unfamiliar old man heard a shriek behind him and felt his heart seize in terror. Without hesitation, he threw out a silver octagon medallion he had been keeping in reserve. Forming a barrier of silver light around his body, he felt slightly safer and quickly turned to see what threat had approached. But nothing seemed to be there. Then, before he could even comprehend the situation, a shriek sounded next to him. A black lance shot through the air, piercing his barrier. Black and silver light intertwined briefly as the lance warped through the shield, embedding itself deep into his abdomen and rupturing him from within. Before the old man could even scream, he was already dead, pieces of his body scattered through the air in an instant. A silver ball of light emerged from where he had stood, his nascent soul, floating and trembling in disbelief at what had just occurred. Yet the Elder Devil's attack was not over. The black threads of light remaining from the lance condensed into a net, instantly capturing the nascent soul. Fear flashed across its face as it attempted to form an incantation, flickering with silver light in a desperate attempt to escape. But it was pulled back into the net, suspended helplessly in a ball of black light. At the same moment, the other black lance reached Senior Marshal Brother Cheng, who had not fully recovered from previous battles at the Dreamcloud Mountains. His strength was insufficient to deal with such an unpredictable assault, and he could only curse internally while preparing to materialize his own nascent soul for escape. Then, just as the lance was about to strike, a spatial fluctuation occurred behind him, and a 3-meter-long crimson swordlight shot forward, colliding with the black lance. The blood-red blade was saturated with a sinister energy, slicing through the black lance and causing a violent explosion where red and black light collided. Relieved, Senior Marshal Brother Cheng immediately flew toward Han Li with all the speed he could muster. His face pale but filled with gratitude, Han Li lowered his blood devil sword slightly and gave a forced smile, acknowledging his companion's presence. For Senior Marshal Brother Cheng, survival had come at the perfect moment, and he knew he owed his life to Han Li's timely assistance. Taoist Heaven Crystal, however, was alone. He watched in horror as the unfamiliar old man's nascent soul was trapped and realized the imminent danger. He turned pale and hastened his flight, but the two-headed Elder Devil appeared in a blur before him. Taoist Heaven Crystal quickly spat out a small crystal sword, which, under the influence of a spell seal, transformed into a barrage of brilliant white sword lights. Yet as the sword lights approached, the Elder Devil's body warped strangely and disappeared from sight, leaving Taoist Heaven Crystal frozen in panic. The light barrier around him trembled violently, muffled thumps resonating as if the space itself were being torn apart. Taoist Heaven Crystal lost control over his own magic power and came to a sudden halt. Terror overtook him as his protective barrier ruptured, allowing a jet black claw to pierce into his abdomen. The claw ripped out his nascent soul before it could even materialize. Leaving his body limp, the Elder Devil withdrew, and Taoist Heaven Crystal's corpse was consumed by black devilish flames, burning to ashes. For a brief moment, Taoist Heaven Crystal's nascent soul, trembling with fear, seized an opportunity to escape. Glowing with white light, it prepared to instantaneously flee over 30 meters. Yet before it could complete the instant movement, the Elder Devil's ghost head sneered, shooting out a purple blur. His tongue, which ensnared the nascent soul and dragged it into the devil's gaping mouth. The ghost head chewed slowly, the black light pulsing across its face as satisfaction washed over it. Immediately, it beckoned to the nascent soul trapped nearby, devouring it as well. The Elder Devil absorbed the power of these souls, his strength and confidence visibly increasing. Turning his attention back toward Han Li and Senior Marshal Brother Cheng, the Elder Devil revealed hunger in his gaze. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's face twisted with fear, witnessing the fate of Taoist Heaven Crystal and the unfamiliar old man. He realized that, without Han Li's intervention, he himself would likely have suffered the same end. The power of this monstrous existence, capable of consuming nascent soul cultivators at the peak of the outside world in a single strike, was inconceivable. Han Li, meanwhile, had contended with the Elder Devil for a prolonged time, only at a slight disadvantage, showcasing the immense extent of his own abilities. Senior Martial Brother Cheng's mind filled with distress as he looked toward Han Li. Han Li's expression was calm yet determined. The Aureate sword formation had already been laid, amplifying his battle strength and confidence. His gaze swept toward the main Elder Devil's battle, occurring a kilometer away, where a pitch-black devil flame reached outward, surrounding Wei Wuya's green poison cloud. The poison cloud, initially 50 meters wide, had been reduced to a third of its size. On the verge of collapse, Ancestor Lingu and the white-clothed woman resisted the devil flames using their treasures to the fullest. But their survival was only temporary. Han Li sighed inwardly, recognizing he could not intervene. They were beyond his immediate reach. His focus remained entirely on the two-headed Elder Devil in front of him. The two-headed Elder Devil began to fly calmly toward Han Li. Narrowing his eyes, Han Li released a jade talisman, summoning a black ghost hand that shot forward to grasp the oncoming devil. At the same time, he swept his sleeve, summoning several tens of azure flying swords. They rang out, condensing into a single, enormous blade pulsing with brilliant azure light. Han Li formed an incantation gesture and pointed at the Elder Devil, causing the enormous sword to vanish and then instantly appear above the devil's head, cleaving downward without delay. The Elder Devil laughed with an odd tone, clapping his hands together to summon a huge black blade. He met the azure sword head-on, recognizing it as one of Han Li's bonded magic treasures. The Elder Devil intended to shatter it, hoping to cripple Han Li's soul. Meanwhile, the Ghost Claw attempted to intercept the Black Hand, but Han Li's spiritual technique restrained it with devilish energy. The Ghost Claw struggled to break free, but the energy only reformed stronger each time. The black blade and the azure sword collided with a deafening explosion. Black and azure radiance clashed violently, warping and rippling through the surrounding space. The black blade groaned, while the azure sword was pushed back slightly but remained intact. The two-headed Elder Devil stared at the sword, shock evident on both faces. Although Han Li had not tempered the bamboo cloud swarm swords extensively, they had been refined with refined crystal, enhancing their durability beyond ordinary magic treasures. Despite lacking extraordinary offensive power, few forces in the world could break them. As the black blade struggled under the weight of the strike, the azure sword suddenly rang with thunder. Countless arcs of golden lightning shot outward, striking the black blade. The black blade quickly collapsed under the immense force. With nothing obstructing it, the enormous lightning-covered sword descended in a fierce, unrelenting strike toward the Elder Devil's head. The Elder Devil didn't anticipate that the huge sword was made of golden lightning bamboo. In his alarm, he hastily fled. In a flicker of black light, he appeared over 30 meters away, and the condensed bamboo cloud swarm sword missed its mark entirely. The devil stopped abruptly, his expression turning sullen. He clapped his four hands together, condensing two balls of black radiance. The black light flickered violently, and the two balls of energy transformed into two humming black lances. Grinding his fangs together, the Elder Devil spat out two clouds of blood essence onto the lances. They shuddered and turned blood red, and both of his heads appeared listless, as if he had expended a large portion of his strength. The huge azure sword reappeared above the devil's ghost head and descended without hesitation. In response, the Elder Devil raised his arms and hurled both blood-red lances at the cleaving sword. Two deafening booms sounded as crimson radiance collided with the golden lightning, the lances holding firm against the sword and its divine energy. The huge sword wailed long and loud, spinning several times and being pushed back over 10 meters. Light flickered violently along its edge, and its brilliance dimmed considerably. Han Li's face shifted from blood red to pale and then back to normal as he felt the sword's spiritual feedback. His soul had suffered minor damage from the backlash, yet his immense power allowed him to withstand it without any lasting effect. Still, Han Li knew he could not allow this confrontation to continue unchecked. He pointed to the huge sword, and with a humming ring, it split into several tens of azure streaks, flying back toward him. The Elder Devil's eyes flashed with rage. Escaping? Those swords will stay behind, he shouted. He waved his crimson lances, which transformed in a flash of radiance into two massive crimson hands. Wind shrieked behind them as they chased the azure swords with frightening speed. Seeing Han Li recklessly releasing so many of his golden lightning bamboo magic treasures, the Elder Devil naturally could not allow him to retrieve them. He surrounded himself in a dense cloud of devilish energy and pursued the flying swords closely. Han Li's lips curved in subtle satisfaction, though he betrayed nothing of it on his face. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng, feeling uneasy standing idle, summoned a small yellow sword in his hand, intending to provide assistance, but before he could act, a voice resonated in his mind. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng, there is no need to act now. Wait until after the devil is trapped, Han Li instructed. Cheng paused, relief washing over him as he obeyed. The crimson hands drew closer to the azure swords by the second. Seeing the pursuers gain speed, Han Li calmly launched a series of spell seals. The scattered azure swords rang in resonance, binding together into a cloud of spiritual energy that surged forward through the air, their velocity increasing several times over. The crimson hands missed their mark entirely as the azure swords revolved above Han Li. The Elder Devil's expression darkened in frustration. It seemed Han Li was deliberately toying with him. He called back the crimson hands, which spiraled around him and condensed into two crimson sabers in his grasp. A harsh whistle escaped the devil's mouth as over 30 meters of concentrated devilish energy surged toward Han Li. The Elder Devil disappeared into the mist, concealed within the charging power. Han Li frowned, golden arcs of lightning flickering across his arms as he formed a large net to intercept the energy. His eyes glowed blue as he swept across the net, but then shock overtook him. The Elder Devil was nowhere to be seen within the energy. Not above, below, or around. Realization struck him, and he immediately grabbed Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's arm, taking off at full speed. Two streaks of crimson light appeared where Han Li had been standing. The Elder Devil re-emerged 10 meters below, his head showing surprise. He had believed his sneak attack certain to succeed. Han Li cursed inwardly at the devil's ruthless cunning. Without his bright sight spirit eyes and quick reflexes, he would have been cleaved in two. His protective armor of tricolored beetles and light barrier could not have withstood such a vicious blow. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng stood beside him, sweat dripping and fear lingering in his mind. The Elder Devil watched Han Li's expressions shift, a sinister smile spreading across his face. In a blink, he shot forward in a black streak of light. 10 meters in length, golden light blossomed in front of the streak, forming a simple golden thread that flickered across it. With a soft thump, two crimson sabers appeared, suddenly blocking the golden thread. The black streak was knocked 3 meters back, revealing the Elder Devil's unsteady figure. Both of his heads displayed shock as the golden thread mysteriously vanished. Han Li had finally trapped the Elder Devil within the Aureate Sword formation. Han Li formed an incantation seal with his hands, willing the formation to activate. Countless golden threads flickered around the Elder Devil, moving silently but inexorably closer. The devil's expression turned harsh, alarmed as he realized he had fallen into a trap. He waved the crimson sabers, launching streaks toward Han Li, only to have them sliced into countless segments by the golden threads. Stunned, the Elder Devil consolidated the sabers into a single huge blade, holding it with all 4 arms. He moved at a deliberate, slow pace, creating a 3-meter-long crescent of suffocating pressure. He swung it 30 meters forward, only for it to collapse against the dense net of golden threads. Alarm overtook him completely as the threads closed in from all directions. The Elder Devil attempted every trick to escape, turning into streams of black energy, then thin lines, splitting the huge blade into 4 long, slender ones, even condensing them into a crimson ball of light for protection. Yet all these efforts failed. The golden threads were precise, slicing through and restricting him without exception. The Aureate Sword formation, now expertly controlled by Han Li, steadily tightened. When the threads drew to within 10 meters, the Elder Devil shrieked, one head emitting a coarse, deep cry, the other a soft, high note. Han Li frowned, considering his opponent's intentions. At the same time, he heard a similar shriek from the main Elder Devil, engulfed in devil fire a kilometer away. From the flames, a massive silhouette shot toward him, wrapped in black devil flames. The two-headed, four-armed devil was over 20 meters tall, moving with terrifying speed, arriving in moments. Han Li's expression changed drastically. Then Senior Marshal Brother Cheng shouted in relief. Junior Marshal Brother Han, our reinforcements have arrived. Han Li looked toward the horizon, seeing two groups of cultivators racing in their direction. Abandoning any thought of retreat, Han Li pointed to the purple flame bird circling above his head. The bird spread its wings and flew toward the approaching Elder Devil. Simultaneously, Han Li drew the Blood Devil sword, and a crimson talisman appeared in his palm, glowing with the image of a scarlet flood dragon. This Spirit Subjugation Talisman, refined with great effort, had only been partially used in a prior battle. He slapped the talisman onto his body. In a flash of scarlet light, it vanished, and a colossal flood dragon materialized above Han Li. 30 meters long, its body a rich, vibrant scarlet, perfectly mirroring the original form of a grade 8 venomous flood dragon. The dragon unleashed a world-shaking cry, distorting the color of the nearby sky. This overwhelming roar stunned both of the Elder Devils. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng stood by, completely at a loss, witnessing the sudden display of Han Li's immense power. As the flood dragon's roar faded away, its image spiraled once in the air before disappearing into Han Li's back. Crimson light glowed behind him, and suddenly the image of a 3-inch long crimson flood dragon began to roam across his body with vivid life. Han Li's body pulsed with crimson light, and thumb-sized sparkling crimson scales sprouted all over him. A sharp pain shot through the top of his head, and a small scarlet horn emerged. His hands transformed, becoming incredibly hardy, with fingers pointed and incisively sharp. At first glance, Han Li's new form resembled the Elder Devil trapped in the sword formation. However, Han Li's face remained human, and the scales only covered his body. Unlike the Elder Devil, whose heads were malevolent and scales purple, Han Li retained his human appearance. Using the Spirit Subjugation Talisman had boosted his true essence with the Flood Dragon's soul, raising his cultivation to the threshold between early and mid-nascent soul stage. Glowing with both azure and crimson light, Han Li gripped the Blood Devil sword with both hands, pouring the entirety of his magical power into it. The sword trembled violently, pulsing with crimson light, and expanded to 3 meters in length. The air filled with the putrid stench of blood. Han Li's scarlet horn glowed brilliantly, radiating the Flood Dragon's power to its fullest. With the minor Elder Devil trapped in the Aureate sword formation, Han Li resolved to prevent the main Elder Devil from rescuing its counterpart. If the two devils merged, they would become an even greater adversary, but with the main devil's speed, it would arrive before the formation could finish off the minor devil. Han Li's only option was to personally strike the minor devil down and then flee, as he could not withstand the might of the main Elder Devil. Although using the Blood Devil sword would cause severe damage to his true essence, Han Li had resolved to act decisively. After slaying the minor devil, he would retreat, leaving the other cultivators to confront the stronger adversary. This would also prevent any complaints, as he would have already eliminated one of the Elder Devils himself. But the Blood Devil sword seemed insatiable. In the blink of an eye, it consumed the majority of Han Li's cultivation. Its crimson light pulsed intensely, extending over 20 meters and radiating a far more powerful aura than before, leaving Han Li shocked. The minor Elder Devil, witnessing this display, froze and a trace of fear flashed across his face. Unable to remain calm, his ghost head bellowed, "Are you seeking your own death? For a human cultivator to wield a sacred tool of our holy realm without regard, are you attempting to become a devil?" Han Li smiled coldly, ignoring the devil's words and continuing to pour spiritual power into the sword. Enraged at the intent to kill him, the minor Elder Devil's body glowed with crimson light. He severed one of his arms, the wound perfectly clean without a drop of blood. Grabbing the severed arm with another hand, he spat several mouthfuls of blood essence onto it and chanted an ancient incantation. The arm immediately radiated crimson energy, distorting and warping before forming a sword resembling the Blood Devil sword. sleek bone covered in pitch-black devilish energy. The sword exuded a dark and terrifying aura, pouring all his body's power into it. The devil made the sword pulse with black radiance. Han Li studied the bone sword cautiously, fully aware that its grotesque method of creation did not diminish its potential threat. Killing intent surged through him, and he ceased pouring power into the blood devil sword. Gripping it tightly, without hesitation, he struck toward the elder devil trapped in the aureate sword formation. A crimson streak of swordlight, 30 meters long, cleaved downward toward the formation. Even before the swordlight arrived, the elder devil could sense the overwhelming power. The air trembled, space distorted, and vibrations shook the surroundings. Shock overtook the devil. Tools from the Holy Realm were said to be half as effective in human hands. Yet this strike seemed unstoppable. He had never witnessed anything comparable to the Spirit Subjugation Talisman. Despite the threat, the Elder Devil raised the partially charged bone sword to meet Han Li's strike. Both of his heads screamed in unison, and a black radiance shot out, half the size of the crimson streak. Crimson and black light collided, producing a deafening boom that sent waves of energy surging outward. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng was blown back a dozen steps before stabilizing himself. Han Li, supported by his enhanced cultivation, blurred back half a step before steadying. The Elder Devil remained unaffected but nervous, observing the immense clash of energies above him. A strange phenomenon occurred after the explosion. A fist-sized black ball appeared in place of the overlapping sword lights. It quickly warped, elongating to 15 meters long and a meter wide, stretching across the sword formation. Rainbow light erupted from the pitch-black object, enveloping both the minor Elder Devil and Han Li. A powerful attractive force dragged them into the black sphere. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng narrowly avoided it. Having been blown back, Han Li realized the terrifying truth: a spatial tear had formed. He tried to resist using magic, but all his power had vanished. Panic rose as he called to the bamboo cloud swarm swords of the aureate sword formation. The minor Elder Devil, stripped of energy, could only stare in terror. Over 100 streaks of golden swordlight shot from the formation toward the spatial tear, accompanied by a violent explosion. A towering figure, wrapped in black devilish flames, appeared near the tear. The Elder Devil, seeing his counterpart dragged in, was filled with fury and alarm. Hovering nearby, he dared not approach the spatial tear. He saw the last bamboo cloud swarm swords flying toward Han Li and reached out with a massive devilish hand. Trying to grab them, most of the swords veered away, but two were captured, becoming immobile. A purple ball of flame shrieked into the spatial tear, and then, in a few moments, the tear blurred several times before vanishing completely. Only Senior Marshal Brother Cheng and the giant Elder Devil remained nearby. The Elder Devil glanced at the vanished tear, his expression wavering before turning his attention towards Senior Marshal Brother Cheng, a savage hostility brimming in his gaze. Cheng, alarmed, hastily summoned his yellow flying sword to protect himself while slowly retreating. Cursing inwardly, from 300 meters away, a voice called out. A green-robed cultivator identified Cheng and questioned the scene, drawing the attention of others, including the controlling Spirit Sect's Grand Elder Dongmen Tu and the Ghost Spirit Sect's Elder Zhang, both accompanied by their elite nascent soul disciples. The groups surrounded the 10-meter-tall Elder Devil cautiously. The two-headed devil's ghost heads turned slowly, evaluating the human cultivators. One sneered, exuding dense killing intent, while the other wore a mysterious smile tinged with derision. Without a word, he raised his hands toward the sky and summoned 4 huge black blades of light. A faint tremble ran through them before they released a deafening shriek. When Senior Marshal Brother Cheng saw this familiar scene, his expression grew unsightly. In the moment the spatial tear had engulfed him, Han Li was blinded by brilliant rainbow light and was forced to shut his eyes. The sudden loss of magic power in his body left him lightheaded, dizzy, and feeling extremely ill. If it were not for the transformation he had undergone from the Flood Dragon, he believed he would have already been knocked unconscious from the shock. Suddenly, Han Li felt the spiritual power in his body stir once more, and his magic power was swiftly restored. A bright spiritual light glowed from his body, and he regained full control, stabilizing himself. The rainbow light flickered intensely several more times before fading away, revealing his new surroundings. Han Li immediately scanned the area and his body blurred, flying over 30 meters to place himself at a safer distance. His eyes caught sight of the Elder Devil right beside him, prompting him to leap back instinctively. The spatial dimension they occupied was limited to only about 100 meters wide, allowing Han Li to see everything clearly. Much to his disappointment, he noticed that no one else was present within this strange space. He and the Elder Devil were alone. As Han Li continued observing, he noted that the spiritual energy in the air was incredibly dense. Scattered throughout the space were spiritual herbs and medicinal plants, as well as a small stone pavilion with an incomplete corridor. The walls of the spatial dimension were composed of impenetrable gray mist, giving the space an abandoned and eerie atmosphere. Han Li realized that this must be the remains of an ancient medicine garden. Despite the surprise, there was no time for curiosity. Han Li's life was in immediate danger, and his focus shifted entirely to the threat before him. Azure light flowed across his body as he coldly studied the Elder Devil. Clenching his fists, golden lightning flickered across his skin, and a ball of purple flames appeared above his head, beginning to rotate slowly. This ball of purple apex flames had rushed into the spatial tear to accompany him, and Han Li knew it would be invaluable in the coming battle. The Elder Devil, upon surveying the surroundings, revealed a look of astonishment before letting out a strange chuckle. I did not think there would be a spatial remnant of a spirit ether garden on the verge of calamity. I have found great fortune. His laughter echoed through the dimension before his gaze turned to Han Li with an unsettling focus. Han Li coldly snorted and extended his sleeve, summoning several tens of golden flying swords. They formed a blurred wall of blades in front of him. But to his shock, he realized that two of his auric essence refined bamboo cloudswarm swords were missing. Though these swords were bound to his soul, he could not sense their presence. They had not entered the spatial tear alongside him. He suppressed a wry laugh at the misfortune. Without the full set, he could not form the aureate sword formation, which greatly reduced the combat potential of his swords. Resigned to his predicament, Han Li focused on drawing support from the remaining swords to protect himself from the combined effects of the Spirit Subjugation Talisman and the divine Devilbane lightning. The Elder Devil observed Han Li's preparations with a sinister smile, flicking his tongue in mockery. Devilish energy surged violently from his body, filling the majority of the spatial dimension with roiling black energy and yin winds. Han Li's heart sank. The power of the Elder Devil was overwhelming, and though his divine Devilbane lightning could suppress devilish energy, it was insufficient to overcome such a vast and oppressive force. Han Li summoned all of the remaining divine Devilbane lightning in his body. His figure glowed with golden light as over 100 arcs of lightning condensed together, forming several bull-thick flood dragons that swirled around him and roared with immense power. The Elder Devil's astonishment was audible as he exclaimed, "You still have so much divine Devilbane lightning?" Before Han Li could respond, the Elder Devil coldly raised his hands. Two gusts of yin winds fused with the surrounding devilish energy to create countless black tentacles of varying sizes, all moving with overwhelming speed and intent. The tentacles charged toward Han Li with crushing force. With no possibility of evasion, his blood shadow evasion useless within the spatial dimension, he steeled himself. The golden lightning flood dragons roared in unison as they collided with the black tentacles, while the ball of purple flames acted as a protective barrier in front of him. Suddenly, the spatial dimension quivered violently and groaned as though alive. Glaring white light shone from above before rapidly shifting to silver. Both Han Li and the Elder Devil paused, stunned by the sudden phenomenon. The clouds above churned violently, transforming into roiling silver flames. With a deafening roar, a massive beam of silver light shot down directly at the Elder Devil. The pillar of silver light erupted around the Elder Devil, clearing away all the devilish energy in its path. Han Li watched as the Elder Devil's expression turned to terror before the flames consumed him entirely, reducing him to ash. Silver embers poured across the spatial dimension, eradicating every trace of devilish energy. Where the Elder Devil had once stood, only utterly destroyed magical treasures remained. The gray mist returned to normal, leaving only Han Li in stunned silence. Silver flames? Han Li muttered, unable to hide his disbelief. This restriction is not of the mortal realm. Incredible. At that moment, the voice of the Monarch of Soul Divergence echoed in his mind. Han Li asked eagerly, "What do you mean? Where did those silver flames come from?" The Monarch of Soul Divergence explained that the flames were not mortal in origin. They sought out evil energy and targeted only the Elder Devil. The silver flames were likely the reason ancient cultivators eventually triumphed over the Elder Devils. Han Li's heart stirred as he realized that the ruins he occupied had been influenced by cultivators from the spirit realm. Senior means these masters were from the spirit realm? Han Li asked, his voice filled with emotion. That is correct, the monarch replied. This is the remnants of one of the renowned spirit ether gardens from antiquity. Vastly powerful cultivators once created small spatial dimensions to grow spiritual herbs with energy far exceeding that of the mortal realm. These gardens were specialized in cultivating rare herbs, but they disappeared over time. It seems this is only a small fragment of one such garden. Han Li's excitement grew. He had read of spirit ether gardens but had believed them to be merely a legend. Now, he saw tangible evidence before him. He swept his hand, recalling the golden lightning, purple flames, and flying swords. He then examined the magical tools left behind by the Elder Devil. Sadly, he realized that the treasures had been corrupted by devilish energy and purged by the silver flames. Their spiritual nature was completely destroyed. Though he stored them casually, he understood that they could never regain their original power. Han Li's body glowed crimson as he withdrew the Spirit Subjugation Talisman, which floated into his hand. This Spirit Subjugation Talisman can only be used one more time. I've only managed to use it a few times, he muttered. He descended to the ground, and a small snow-white fox emerged, flickering with silver light and transforming into Silvermoon. The fox curtsied, chuckling. I originally believed Master would summon me to assist in the last battle. I did not expect you would call me now. Han Li replied, your cultivation was too low to help in that fight. However, your movement techniques are proficient. Search this area for any hidden mechanisms or restrictions. As you command. Silvermoon nodded and disappeared into the ground with a flash of silver light. Han Li sat cross-legged, closing his eyes to spread his spiritual sense, carefully examining every inch of the spatial dimension for hidden secrets. Though he initially found nothing, his calm expression slowly shifted into one of curiosity and excitement. Moments later, he opened his eyes and immediately stood up, moving excitedly to a corner of the spatial dimension where tens of purple berries grew from an odd plant. In this episode, we saw Han Li face incredible dangers and make astonishing breakthroughs. He harnessed the power of the Flood Dragon and the Spirit Subjugation Talisman, transforming his body and strengthening his cultivation to confront the Elder Devils. We witnessed intense battles where he skillfully wielded the Blood Devil Sword and Divine Devilbane Lightning, showing both strategy and courage in the face of overwhelming threats. The appearance of the spatial tear thrust him into a mysterious spirit ether garden, revealing an ancient world of dense spiritual energy, rare herbs, and lost cultivator secrets. With the intervention of the silver flames, a powerful force from the spirit realm, Han Li was able to defeat the formidable Elder Devil without suffering harm, uncovering part of the garden's hidden legacy. By the end of the episode, he began exploring the ancient space, discovering magical plants and treasures, and setting the stage for further adventures. What happens next? Stay tuned for the next episode of Immortal's Journey to Immortality. If you enjoyed this episode or found it exciting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to receive notifications for the latest episodes following Han Li's journey. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.